Go inside the Crimson Tide with your hosts Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. Tider Insider TV, brought to you by Visit Tuscaloosa.
Welcome into Tider Insider TV. Sometimes, if people at home just got a glimpse of what we're doing right before we get on the air, we're not always sitting out here ready to go. Sometimes it's a little bit hectic. But we're here for Tider Insider TV alongside Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com. I'm WVUA 23 Sports Director Gary Harris. We got a lot to get to tonight, but we're going to start with Alabama men's basketball, and why not? The Crimson Tide is ranked number 1 in one poll, number 2 in the other. And this past Saturday night up at Arkansas, Bama wound up getting a little scared. I say wound up getting a little bit scared, Rodney, because they're up 20 in the second half, up 18 with under 10 to go. But we know in college basketball these days, particularly on the road, you can't let up. Arkansas got that thing all the way down to one possession at the end, Rodney, and Alabama had to hang on, but the Tide did, and they win it 85-80. In fact, it is now the 7th straight road game that Alabama scored 85 points or more. So let's start with the good. You're able to build a 20-point lead on the road in the second half against a team that's coming off road wins themselves over Kentucky and Texas. So they were red hot. That's the good news. Bad news is you let that thing slip away and had to hang on at the end.
You know, anytime in the SEC, we've talked about this repeatedly. On the road especially, it can be extremely difficult. Sometimes at home. How about Auburn? Alabama, though, Gary, again, I'm with you. You know, you got a 20-point lead. You know, it dwindled really quickly, too. But the thing is, again, the mental toughness they showed, they didn't fold. Guys came through, made clutch, few clutch free throws. Youngblood did, certainly. There you see Grant Nelson land one and had another really good game. You had 4 guys in double figures. You know what, Gary? We're watching Alabama find different ways to win games. You know, they like to shoot the three. They only hit on 5 threes in this game. They outscored Arkansas 20 points in the paint. So this team's coming to, and I tell you, you've asked this all along. When's Cliff Amari going to really kind of start exerting himself? We saw it. Cliff Amari really starting to exert himself.
Yeah, you hit on some great points. Season low 5 3-pointers, but 56 points in the paint, 38 from Nelson, Diabate, and Amori. I had Ryan Pannone, assistant men's coach, on Monday on my radio show, and he kind of said the same thing. Cliff Amori's starting to get it. It's been an adjustment. Rutgers plays a completely different style of basketball than Alabama. He'd been in that system for 3 years. He's starting to get it. And, Rodney, one thing that's exciting about this team, I think you and I talked about this when you were on my radio show, the ceiling for this team, I'm not saying there aren't other teams that are just as good as Alabama or great teams across the country, but I think Alabama's still got a lot of room for improvement. They're still not shooting the three-point shot. That's the MO of this team. Only 5 made three-pointers, 26% from 3. They got 85 points. And when they really start knocking down those threes, and I think they will, Rodney, they might hang 115 on somebody.
Well, I mean, we saw it earlier in the year. Of course, it wasn't an SEC play, but they were playing some really pretty good competition, and they were hitting some threes. So, I mean, they were really hot at times. And you're right, when they start consistently doing that, you know, obviously can make it real. But again, Gary, I go back to what I said. Just watching this team to be able to win in different ways is really important, because you know what? When you get in that tournament, you're going to have to find ways to win in different manner. So I think that's really important for this team.
You mentioned Amori, also the freshman, Sherrell, in limited playing time, had 7 points and 3 rebounds. He's starting to come on. Darion Reed still out again tonight against Texas, battling an injury. So you've got Reitzel, Millette, and Reed all out. So it's not like this team hasn't dealt with injuries, but you're seeing the depth even with those guys out. There's different people that can step up. Chris Youngblood, he's a guy that's really coming on and starting to find his rhythm.
He is, and you know, he was really tough in this last game, Gary. We talked about it early in the year. Remember the question was, how are they going to find roles for all these guys? Well, you know, it always plays itself out. You know, just like in football when they talk about, well, we got all these running backs, right? Well, all of a sudden then you don't have any running backs. So it seems to always play itself out, and you're right. They're playing 9 guys basically right now. So that's good. And
we know what's coming up this weekend. 1 versus 2, 2 versus 1. Alabama's 1 in one poll. Auburn's 1 in the other. 2 for Alabama, 1 poll, 2 for Auburn in the other. So that's coming. But it's not here yet. We've still got a big game tonight, and that's going to take us to coach talk, because Alabama is now the number 2 ranked team in the country, as I said in one poll, number 1 in the other, and there's serious talk about the Alabama winning a national championship after going to the Final Four last year. And that game against Auburn is on everybody's mind. But Nate Oats can't think like fans do. He's got to think about what's up next. He even used a Nick Saban story to his team this week, talking about Nick Saban. I was always asked about, you do anything differently for the national championship? No. We had a big game last week. We had a big game before that. They're all big. You do the same thing you do for every game. That's what Nate Oats says Alabama is doing this week as they prepare for the Longhorns tonight.
We got to keep these guys preparing for Texas as if it was a national championship game, and then you get your reps prepping for big games all year. And at least with us this year in the SEC, there's no bad games. I mean, this is a great game. They're really talented. There's, first round picks on this team. So I don't think it does a whole lot different for us, to be honest with you.
All right, Ryan, this Texas team, they're good. Maybe not great, but Trey Johnson leads the SEC in scoring at 19 points a game. Senior forward Arthur Kaluma is a big guy inside, and they're at home. Here's the bottom line. We saw it almost get away at Arkansas. If Alabama isn't ready to go tonight and doesn't play well, they could get beat.
You're right. There's no doubt about it, Gary. But I want to say this real quick. How weird is it to be going on the road to Austin playing an SEC game? You know what I mean? I mean, it just sounds so different. But you're right. I mean, every night on the road in the SEC, it's really difficult. Obviously, you're coming off a real challenge that you had at Arkansas. I mean, I don't want to say it was a draining game, Gary, but it was certainly the way it goes down to the wire like that.
One thing Alabama did that I really like is they didn't come back to Tuscaloosa. That was a late game Saturday night.
Sure.
They stayed in Fayetteville, got a good night's rest, then went to Austin on Sunday and are preparing for that game because they come back a late game tonight. They won't get back until early Wednesday morning, and then they have extra time to prepare for the Auburn game. Which just a quick thought on that, Rodney, as we look ahead to this weekend. And Auburn is playing Vanderbilt tonight. Alabama's playing Texas. It's a big game regardless, but both these teams need to win tonight to really make it special on Saturday.
Yeah, well, you're right. I mean, and it set up really well if both do.
Yeah.
But we know what it's going to be anyway, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be an all-timer.
And Darion Reed, a lot of people have been texting me asking about his status. It really is game to game. That's about all we know. He went out for a while. He came back and played in the game. And now Coach Oats hasn't said a lot. So, Rodney, we've seen this before where a guy gets dinged and then you just don't know when he's coming back.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's one of those things, Gary. We're going to really just have to let it play out.
Yeah, and he's a really talented player. But good thing, like I've said, Alabama has got some depth. Even with 3 guys out, they're still one of the deepest teams in the country. All right, let's get to Alabama women's basketball because we don't want the men to steal all the spotlight. Alabama women up to number 21 in the AP poll, which came out on Monday. All they did last week was go on the road and blow out Florida. And then Sunday, blow out Mississippi State. On Sunday over in Starkville, that's a tough place to play. You had Sarah Ashley Barker nearly with a triple-double. She had 19 points, 12 rebounds, and 8 assists. And this team, you and I have been talking about it all year. I think they've got a chance to get a top 4 seed. What's so important about that is, in the women's NCAA tournament, if you're a top 4 seed, you host. So playing at home would be huge. So you got to be one of the top 16 teams in the country, theoretically,
I don't even
top
remember
4 seed.
last time they've hosted, do you?
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
But this team is good, Rodney.
Yeah.
They're a team, I think, that can beat anybody they play. Got a chance to do
With
something.
Barker back.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot of confidence.
She's so good. And I don't mean this disparagingly toward Alabama basketball. It's just a fact, though. If she played on, say, South Carolina or UConn or LSU or Tennessee, a more high-profile program, the amount of publicity she would get would be unbelievable.
Yeah.
But Alabama's trying to make people think about them in the same breath as those teams I just mentioned. They're off this week. This is a bye week. They don't play again till this weekend, or actually until next Monday when they host Texas A&M. Alabama playing really, really well and looking to do something in March, just like the men.
So.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's go for it. All right, let's get on here to the program. Still to come on Tider Insider Television. Alabama softball season just got underway, and it was a good start for the Tide out in Arizona. And we will talk about that successful weekend trip up to Tucson. Plus, with the recent hire of offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb, Nick Sheridan's status was a little bit up and down about what he was going to be coaching. We know now. We knew all along he was still going to be on this staff. He and Coach DeBoer have a great relationship. You might be surprised, though, to find out the position group that he's going to be coaching. We'll have that for you. And also, we'll be getting your phone calls, emails, and tweets. As always, that phone number, 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. Go ahead and give us a call so you can get through. We'll be right back with the only show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide, Tider Insider TV.
I've said from the very beginning, way back in August, that this was going to be a very, very athletic team, and they showed that. The second thing was, I've been telling you guys all spring that there's 9 girls on the team that have the green light.
You know what a green light girl is, Rodney? That means they got the green light. They can steal anytime they want. How about Audrey Vandergriff? The freshman set a stolen base record with 5 in Sunday's run rule win over Western Michigan, 14-5 at the Candrea Classic out in Tucson, Alabama. But 4-1 in that tournament. The only game they lost was to host Arizona. Looked really good, really strong, really fun, really athletic. Going to be a good team. They go to that Clearwater Classic for the Shriners Children's Clearwater Invitational this weekend, which is going to be a really, really tough field. One other note as Alabama softball gets going, Washington had a player by the name of Alexis DeBoer, a freshman. She hit her first career home run off Alabama. She hit 2 more in the tournament. Listen, she's at Washington. They recruited her out of high school. But at some point in time, it'd be nice to think.
Get her in that portal.
Yeah. I mean, her dad is a football coach here, but she's really good. Welcome back to TITV, brought to you by Visit Tuscaloosa. Alongside Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. You see our Visit Tuscaloosa cups right there. Go to visittuscaloosa.com. They do a lot for West Alabama. Well, Kalen DeBoer's coaching staff, we think, is filled out with some familiar faces and some more clarity. 24/7 sports reporter Alex Scarborough reported yesterday that Nick Sheridan will remain on the Alabama staff and still coach the quarterbacks. Obviously, he won't be the offensive coordinator. Ryan Grubb takes that over. Last year, he was the quarterbacks coach, offensive coordinator, and play caller. He'll focus on the quarterbacks, and what this does is it frees up, Brian Ellis will still coach tight ends, it frees up Ryan Grubb to just be the offensive coordinator.
Again, it's kind of like Kane Womack on the defensive side, Gary. He's kind of what we called, you remember when Kevin Steele, we called him a walk-around defensive coordinator. I mean, Womack's kind of the same thing on defense. Now you've got Ryan Grubb, who it frees him up, like you said, to be the basically a walk-around offensive coordinator. But you look at Ryan Grubb, the experience he has. He's coached quarterbacks. But Gary, he's got an expertise on the offensive line as well, because we know Coach Cap has that spot and did a really fantastic job last year in that first year. But Grubb has a lot of expertise with different positions as well. Yeah,
the staff, as we have it configured on offense, 12 assistants, full-time assistants on the field is the way we have it. On offense, Ryan Grubb, Robert Gillespie, Brian Ellis, Chris Kapilovic, and also we mentioned Sheridan there. I've got this written down, but it's kind of been broken up. But on defense, as you said, Womack will be a defensive coordinator, will not coach a possession. Jason Jones joins the staff as safeties coach. So Chuck Morrell's on the staff with linebackers now. So you've got 12 full-time coaches, Rodney. That's a lot.
And you know what? Mo Lindquist, obviously, the corners coach, did a fantastic job. You got Freddie Roach back again on the defensive line. So Christian Robinson at outside linebackers. It's a good group.
Jay Nunez will be back as special teams coordinator. So again, I'll just run down their names. You know them all without positions. Grubb, Womack, Nunez, Sheridan, Shepard, Gillespie, Ellis, Kapilovic, Lindquist, Jones, Roach, Morrell, Robinson, David Ballou, strength and conditioning, Courtney Morgan, general manager, and Jeff Allen, director of sports medicine. So that is a big staff, and Coach DeBoer has been given everything he's asked for here. So it's all out there here in year 2 to really make a big step, and what I mean by that is getting into that college football playoff.
Yeah, I like the staff. I like the tweaks that he's made to the staff, obviously. I think Jason Jones, we've talked about him maybe a little bit. I think that's a really big addition. Gary, when you talk to a lot of coaches and when you have the opportunity to get feedback from guys who've coached in the SEC, they say a lot of really, really good things about Jason Jones. Now, don't forget this, too. He's got a lot of experience with the Womacks. He's coached at Ole Miss. Dave Womack was the defensive coordinator over there. So he's got a lot of that connection there, and I think that's really big.
Back to Sheridan, real quickly, working with the quarterbacks. Last year we knew Jalen Milroe was the starter. That's where all the focus was. They didn't play many other quarterbacks very often. They got some time, but not a lot. This year you got 3 quarterbacks. You're going to have an open quarterback competition. He's going to have a big job on his hand because even with Ty Simpson, as long as he's been around here, he has not played a lot. So you got 3 inexperienced quarterbacks that he's going to be coaching.
Yeah, you do, and you're right. I mean, it's tough when you don't have a lot of experience. You mentioned Ty hasn't played a lot, and he's been here. He's he's a redshirt junior this year, so this is going into his 4th year. Being here. Austin Mack, I mean, he's a guy, Gary, that really should be a true freshman. Spent a year at Washington. Now, one thing about that, is Austin Mack does have some experience not only with Sheridan, but with
Grubb.
Ryan Grubb.
Yeah.
So they know him really, really well. Of course, Keelan Russell, the true freshman, is coming in, going to be here during spring course. You got a good group, though.
Yeah.
And I think there's a good camaraderie in that group. So I think that's a positive.
Yeah, spring is going to be interesting. Still to come on TITV, Alabama football now has the most Super Bowl winning players of all time. Another Alabama in the NFL. 54 former Crimson Tigers have won Super Bowls. We'll discuss the guys that brought home a ring this past Sunday when we come back. Also, we'll get to your phone calls, emails, and tweets. The phone number 205-348-9882. Go ahead and give us a call. We want to hear from you next on TITV. All right, Bama in the NFL, the Super Bowl edition. Of course, the Chiefs don't have any former Bama players, but the Eagles got a lot of them, including Devontae Smith. That 46-yard bomb from Jalen Hurts is the first ever touchdown scored by a former Bama player or a player drafted from Alabama. Of course, Jalen Hurts had scored several now. He's already got a bunch of touchdowns in the Super Bowl, but he is listed as an Oklahoma player, although we know he played 3 years here. Landon Dickerson gets a ring. Number of other guys on that Eagles squad get rings. Jalen Hurts was the MVP after passing for 220 yards and 72 yards on the ground, 3 total touchdowns, and the Eagles blew out the Chiefs 40-22. There's A.J. Brown, who almost came to Alabama, getting a touchdown. So, big day for Alabama in the Super Bowl. And for Jalen Hurts, Rodney, a guy that a lot of people said wouldn't be drafted, wouldn't play in the NFL. He's now been to 2 Super Bowls and is a Super Bowl MVP.
Well, I mean, again, credit Jalen. I mean, he's overcome a lot of adversity, obviously. And you know what? Had to be really sweet for him because, kind of the way things unfolded throughout his career. But he kept fighting, put himself in a position. And, Gary, look, there's a lot of quarterbacks that would love to be playing with the Philadelphia Eagles.
No doubt about it.
That team is loaded with talent, but here's the thing. You got to be able to manage it, and that's what I think he did really well.
And Devontae Smith has just won at every level. He's won a Heisman. He's won a Super Bowl ring. He's won a national championship. He did lose the state championship game in high school, but he's a big-time winner. All right, we are going to get to some phone calls and emails right now. Right now, let's get to Rick over in Brent. Hey, Rick, how are you? Hello? Rick, you on?
Are you there?
Yeah, hey, Rick. They just outpunched you.
Hey.
What's going on, man?
I just wonder why Nate Oats doesn't have his coach's show, because Coach Bryant thought that was a key part of recruiting.
Well, he does have a coach's show. I'm not the programming guy here, but I think it's Monday nights at 6:30. But I know we run the Nate Oats show on WVOA 23. I do know that. Every week. Okay? All right, can we get to an email question? All right, let's go to the email question of the day, being brought to you by KDM Service Corporation. When it comes to heating and air conditioning, we serve your family like it's our family. And let's get to the email question. Is Keelan Keeley still with the team? And if so, why has he not seen the field? Johnny in Tuscaloosa.
You know what? Look, first of all, Keelan Keeley was a 5-star rated kind of jack outside linebacker when he was recruited out of Tampa. There you see him right there, number 31. They switched his position. They've moved him down, Gary, to defensive end. This guy, sometimes it takes a little time to develop. He had to get bigger. He's gotten bigger. I think they list him now around 275 or so. But it takes a little time to make that adjustment. Look, I've talked to somebody that played in the NFL, played defensive line, has observed Keelan Keeley quite a bit. He said when he finally gets it, and again, it takes a little time making that adjustment. When he gets it, he's going to be a terror.
All right. Thanks for the phone call and the email question of the day. Let's go ahead and get to a break here on TITV, and we're going to come back with more, including Alabama baseball star staying close to home, high school star staying close to home to play for the Crimson Tide, and more of your phone calls, emails, and tweets. Again, that phone number 205-348-9882. We'll be right back. Thompson baseball star Mikael Holden signed with the Crimson Tide. He's rated the top right-handed pitcher, number 5 overall player in Alabama by Perfect Game USA. He's also an outfielder and outstanding hitter, and hit a walk-off grand slam to send the Warriors to the 7A state quarterfinals in 2024. But he expects to focus on pitching only for the Crimson Tide. Alabama opens its season on Friday against Bradley. Game 1 will be at 4 p.m. Game 2 will be at 1 p.m. on Saturday, and Game 3 will be at 1 p.m. on Sunday. All right, welcome back into TITV, presented by Visit Tuscaloosa. Let's get to an email question, unless we got a phone call, and I haven't heard that we do. So let's do an email. Do you believe DeBoer, not what I'm seeing, okay. Will North Carolina pursue Nate Oats? Well, first of all, Jerome and Gadsden, they've got a coach in Hubert Davis. So right now there's no opening there. If there is an opening, could they show some interest in Nate Oats? I think there are a lot of people that are showing interest in Nate Oats, to be quite honest with you. So that's just something you got to deal with.
You know, look. Again, he's a hot commodity. There's no doubt about it. The things he's done, the way he's turned this program in, how he's elevated Alabama basketball right now, makes him a guy that a lot of schools, if they have an opening, even the NBA potentially down the road, Gary. But look, I think right now, Oates has probably had opportunities to go. I think he's really comfortable with where he is right now.
All right, I do too. I think he loves it here. I think he absolutely loves what he's doing at the University of Alabama. All right, we're going to try to get to one more email question, and this is the one on, do you believe DeBoer regrets not playing Simpson more last season, Emily and Alina? I don't know. I mean, he had a chance to play him as much as he wanted to. They made the decision to handle the quarterbacks the way that they did, so I would guess he doesn't have any regrets.
You know, you would always love to have more experience. Ty didn't play a whole lot the year before. You know, he did play at the end of some games, and we saw some promise in 2023, and then he probably didn't play as much last year, actually. But you would always love to have more experience.
All right. Thanks for the phone calls and the emails. We're going to take a time out. We'll come back and wrap up this edition of TITV right after this. The University of West Alabama introduced new head football coach Scott Cochran on Friday morning. Cochran started his journey as a strength and conditioning coach at the University of Alabama, transitioned to special teams coach at the University of Georgia. He's been a part of 8 national championship teams in his career, but he has never been a head coach at any level. He gets that chance down in the beautiful community of Livingston, Alabama. Rodney, how do you think he'll do?
Man, I hope he does great. I think he will. Gary, everybody in this area knows Scott Cochran.
That's for sure. He should be able to recruit. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of Tider Insider TV, presented by Visit Tuscaloosa. Don't forget, if you missed the show, you can catch a replay tonight at 10:30 or anytime online at WVUA23.com. We leave you with highlights from Alabama gymnastics. They lost to defending national champion LSU, but they did score a season high this past Friday night. Good night, everybody.